Welcome into One of One Sports, the only one for your original sports commentary and analysis. Another week of college football is in the books, and it is once again time to give my updated top 25 rankings. Let's get into it. All right, before we get started, I have to ask you guys, please leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. We are trying to hit 300 subscribers before the end of college football season. The time is running out. I need your guys' help to get there. Any support is greatly appreciated. Now, without further ado, let's reveal 25 through 21. All right, so at the bottom here, 25, I have Tennessee, and 24, I have Arizona. And to be honest, these two, look, I don't really want to rank either of these teams. Tennessee, your three losses are all the teams that are going to be ranked very highly, but you have no good wins, and I really just put them in here because I was running out of teams. I couldn't find 25 teams I deserve to be ranked. I know the committee will have them ranked, so I was like, may as well. Arizona, a bit of bias. I like Arizona, root for them, and they just had a big win, so I figured why not put them in. And then 23, North Texas, 9-1, arguably been the best G5 team. It's between these three teams. I prefer James Madison a bit over North Texas because their loss to Louisville, I think, is not as bad as the way North Texas lost to South Florida. And then Tulane, they got crushed by Ole Miss and have a bad loss to UTSA, but they also have wins over Northwestern, who's been pretty good, almost beat Michigan, beat Duke, who's decent, right? So I thought their stronger wins allow them to be at 21, but if you wanted to rearrange the group of 5 teams, that would be fine. And if you have different teams here at the bottom instead of Arizona and Tennessee, I'm willing to hear you out on that part as well, because yeah, those teams, it was kind of, I was just searching for teams to fill out the end of this ranking. 20 through 16, I have Houston at 20, who still has just 2 losses, is still in the mix for the Big 12 championship. And look, Texas Tech blew them out. Who doesn't Texas Tech blow out when they're healthy? And then you have the bad loss to West Virginia, but a lot of teams have a bad loss over the course of the season. You've been a very good team. You have some solid wins. The ASU win on the road when ASU was relatively healthy is a very strong win. So I like this Houston team a good bit. Willie Fritz has done a great job. Texas is the highest 3-loss team at 19, just because I had them top 10 last week. I think I had them 10. And you were on the road at Georgia, and that's a really tough game. The Ohio State loss by 7 on the road, also not terrible. The Florida loss is what really blemishes the resume, and you have really strong wins. Like Vanderbilt at 17, you beat them, were dominant for 3 quarters of football. Oklahoma is going to be really high, as you might expect. You were dominant against them. So you have the highs of an elite team, but the lows of a really bad team, and overall 3 losses prevents you from being ahead of any of these 2-loss teams in my eyes. Michigan, 18. They move up, but I was not impressed with that Northwestern game at all. Don't like the play calling, but it's not going to matter if you can, fix it for these final 2 games. You have everything in front of you. But yeah, right now, with the way they looked against Northwestern, the way they looked against Purdue, it's tough to imagine them beating Ohio State. And I'm a little surprised they come in at 18. They haven't looked like the 18th best of the country eye test wise, but resume wise and as a product, other teams like Texas falling behind them, like Louisville dropping out of the rankings, they do move up this week. Vanderbilt off a bye stays put at 17. Even though Louisville dropped, we had some teams jump them. Same thing for Georgia Tech, except they did play at least eventually, right? They started looking like they weren't going to show up to that Boston College game, down 28-17 late into the second half. And this is really just a team. It's like, who will provide on a weekly basis outside of Haynes King? Because I know he's going to give it his all. He's now throwing the ball at an elite level. He's going to run the ball at an elite level. He is the whole offense. But can the defense consistently show up? Can Jamal Haynes consistently make plays? Can Eric Rivers or Malik Rutherford consistently make plays? Like, the Haynes King's the only guy I feel like I know what to expect. And it's kind of held this team back, is they're kind of a one-man show, which you don't like to see at this point in the season. 15 through 11, I do have a few 2-loss teams ahead of Georgia Tech. Starting off, I have USC, who, look, Iowa, for a lot of that game, I thought was going to get the win, but USC was able to pull it out. And now you look, Notre Dame, not a bad loss. Illinois, not a terrible loss either. They were a team I considered giving that final 25 spot to. And you have some solid wins now. Like, Iowa is a good win. Nebraska is a good win. Michigan is a good win. So you have some pretty solid wins, not a bad resume at all. And when you consider, and I've said this week after week after week, the fact of that Georgia Tech is Wake Forest should have beat them. So when I'm comparing Georgia Tech to Virginia, I'm looking at 2 teams. All right, Virginia lost to NC State. Georgia Tech lost to NC State. Virginia lost to Wake Forest with a backup quarterback. Georgia Tech beat Wake Forest, but I watched the game. They should have lost. Refs handed them the game. And then when I'm looking at best wins, like, okay, Virginia crushed Duke. Georgia Tech kind of, it was a much closer game against Duke, arguably was outplayed, but they got the win. Virginia beat Louisville on the road. Georgia Tech doesn't have a win of that caliber. So to me, a team like Virginia has a clearly better resume. And then Utah, I mean, it's just eye test at this point. The way they're running the ball, what they did to Baylor Saturday night, what they've done to every team except BYU and Texas Tech is just bludgeon them. And if you can't stop the run, you're going to be in trouble against Utah. So if you're a team in the college football playoff and Utah sneaks in and you have a weak run defense, you could be in for a long day. Now, I don't know that Utah's going to be able to end up getting into the playoff, but still, they are a very good team. And yeah, they come in ahead of USC, then Virginia 13, and then Notre Dame, Miami jump up because Notre Dame, I thought, was so impressive against Pittsburgh. What their run game did to Pitt, who I thought had one of the best run defenses in the country, really blew me away. Were completely dominant, and while I thought they'd win, I thought it was going to be a lot closer. And then same thing, Miami going up 41-0 on NC State. Like, it was like, wow, this, okay, if you can keep this up, and you were looking closer to that early season Miami that was everyone, well, maybe not everyone, but I was certainly saying was maybe the scariest team in college football, capable of winning a national championship. All that, which now seems so far gone, looked like maybe they could potentially tap back into that here at the end of the season, peak at the right time if they can sneak in. And for me, like, they're right on the fringes right now. We'll see what the committee does, because as you know, the committee has been ranking Notre Dame ahead of Miami. I disagree with that. They're both two-loss teams. I think Miami has the better resume, has the better win in Notre Dame versus Notre Dame's win against USC. And look, I know Notre Dame doesn't have as bad of losses. I don't think that makes up for the fact that Miami has better wins, has head-to-head, and they have the same record. So for me, Miami is at 11. Into the top 10, I was surprised to see I still had Alabama in the top 10. Initially, going into this, I was like, they're for sure going to drop out. But then when I was comparing them to my number 11 team, Miami, it's like, okay, Alabama doesn't have worse losses. Like, Florida State loss is the worst, but then Louisville and SMU are worse than the Oklahoma loss. So it's kind of a mix there. And while Miami is the Notre Dame win, it's like Alabama has the Georgia win, who, as you can see, is going to be in my top 5. They also have a Tennessee win, who I ranked. They have a Vanderbilt win, who I ranked. They beat Missouri, who at the time was ranked and maybe still would be ranked if their quarterback had never gotten injured. So the wins are better than Miami. They actually stay in the top 10, but of course, drop behind or jump by Oklahoma, who beat them on the road and almost moved up to number 8. Originally drafting this late in the night, I was like, Oklahoma's going to move up to 8. But what BYU did to TCU, just start to finish, dominating them. After I put BYU on upset alert, after I said TCU was going to make this really close, and BYU was only a 3.5-point favorite, and they just crushed TCU. I mean, crushed. And that was able to to give them the nod, keep ahead of Oklahoma and get the 8 spot. Oregon was dominant Friday night against Minnesota. They come in at 7. And then Ole Miss, I almost dropped below Oregon just because they had a little bit of trouble with the Gators and looked like they might be on upset alert. But later in the game, they figured it out, able to win by double digits, and I kept them ahead of the Ducks. They come in at number 6. Finally, the top 5. Texas Tech is jumped by Georgia, so Texas Tech falls to 5, Georgia's 4, and then A&M, Ohio State, Indiana hold serve at 3, 2, 1. I moved Georgia ahead of Texas Tech because while Tech was dominant, crushing UCF, or maybe they were Central Florida yesterday, or Saturday, I should say, Georgia beating Texas like that, who I had ranked very highly, still have ranked, was enough to get them the nod to move up. A&M obviously wasn't going to jump Ohio State, Indiana after barely escaping South Carolina. Or, not that it's a problem, but that's not going to give you, points to move up. And Ohio State and Indiana were just dominant. I had Indiana ahead last week because I think they have a better resume than Ohio State. I still believe they have the better resume than Ohio State because of a road win at Oregon, who I ranked as the number 7 team in the country. So Indiana's 1, Ohio State's 2, A&M 3, Georgia 4, and Texas Tech 5. Here's a graphic showing my top 25 to wrap it up, because that is all I have for today's video. Make sure to leave a comment. Which teams do I have too high? Which do I have too low? Let me know what all do you disagree with. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I will be back tomorrow with my college football predictions for week 13 of college football. So until then, I'll see you guys next time.